So up here, there's the entrance here to an izakaya restaurant. I believe I've eaten at this one. Izakaya is a style of restaurant where the menu is pretty big, and oftentimes people will go as a group and order many things and just share the food amongst one another. It's good. It gets a little bit expensive, especially for a Western appetite. Us Westerners definitely eat much more, but it is very good. Here you get a little bit of a view further off downtown into Shonandai. Now I'm going to take you towards the Shonandai Cultural Center and the park. I'll give you a view of that. This is a pretty large bookstore, at least by Shonandai standards, pretty large. I have been into this clothing shop. The name is deceiving. It took me a while to realize that it wasn't just jeans. They have all sorts of clothing. You can maybe make out now the dome there to the Shonandai Cultural Center in the distance. If you're coming to Japan for the first time, whether it be because you are a prospective English teacher, you think you might be coming, you know you're coming, and if you know your area, do your research on the place that you're coming to. You know, it's definitely helped me out to kind of have an idea of where I was coming to, what I was getting myself into. There wasn't a whole lot of information on Shonandai itself on the internet that I could find. There was a little bit on Wikipedia about Fujisawa, but I also used Google Earth, and that gave me, you know, a really good view, literally, of Fujisawa and Shonandai, to the extent that when I got here, when my manager met me a few train stations away and brought me for the first time to Shonandai, when I got out of the train station, I was able to actually kind of orient myself. I knew, you know, where the park was, the cultural center. I knew which way the beach was. I knew exactly where the school was before she even showed it to me. But you know, also don't deceive yourself. No matter how much research you do, you're not actually you're not going to know it all before you come. You just can't. There's definitely been some things that have thrown me for a loop, that have surprised me. Nothing bad, just wasn't expected for my area. So across the street here, Pepite Lion. Yeah, you would want to say Pepite Lion, something like that, but I don't think it is. I think they call it Lion. It's an Italian restaurant. Yeah, actually, the first restaurant that I ate at here in Shonandai was an Italian restaurant. It was a different one. It was with my manager the first day I arrived. I think it's, you know, it's probably true back home. You know, it says Italian, and there's certain things that seem vaguely Italian, but it's not Italian. It's Japanese Italian, very different. Down this way, down that street, there is actually an Indian restaurant. Small, but it's really nice, and it is, I think, pretty authentic. The owner is from India, and he's very nice. He speaks very fluent English, and he's a very good guy, very nice. So that's been nice. And here you can see the kind of bizarre but interesting architecture of the Shonandai Cultural Center, and I think maybe there's also, well, that I've never seen. That's the first time I've seen any kind of traffic problem in Japan. But I think there's also maybe a science center. It's big on field trip tours, I hear, for kids. I'm walking across this bridge over the street here, I'll take a moment and tell you a little bit about the weather. From the research I did, the weather is pretty comparable to, say, Washington, D.C., mid-Atlantic coast of the United States, which is great for me because that's what I'm used to. But that hasn't really been the case so far for me here in Japan. It's been cold and wet, a lot of rain off and on. But even my coworkers, they've all pretty much said that that's not normal, and they're kind of tired of it too. So here's the park that I wanted to show you, Shonandai Park. Parks are different, at least here in Shonandai, than what we're used to. I think there's, less grass area than what I would expect. But it's nice. The dogs here in Japan, noticeably different. I mean, I'm not just talking about the way they look, but the way they behave. They're just much calmer animals. Of course, I've heard dogs barking here, but just not as much. And I think Mike and I were talking about this. If you've seen Mike in any of my other videos, I think it's a reflection of the overall calm state that most people here in Japan are in. If you've heard anything like that before, it's definitely not an exaggeration. It's not a stereotype. It absolutely is true. I had a very in-depth conversation with a Japanese woman, another owner of a Mexican restaurant actually, and she talked about that. The most important thing for Japanese culture was to maintain harmony and peace and balance. Not just with people, but with nature, obviously. And they have become very adept at kind of suppressing their emotions, basically, so that they do not kind of disturb that peace for other people. I think there's ups and downs to that, but hey, when you see it reflected in nature around you, and the dogs kind of pick up on it, and you think to yourself, well, maybe there's something to that. It's impressive. You can see we're still in the park. I wanted to show you across the street here, outside the park. There's many places to get your hair cut here. It just seems, and I might be exaggerating, but it seems like maybe as much as 40% of all the businesses in Japan, or at least here in Shonandai, are either restaurants or salons, hair cutteries, that sort of thing. Japanese men wear their hair much longer, and I guess they get their hair cut and crimped and the whole bit just as much as women do. So plenty of hair salons. The one back there that I went to, that was an interesting experience. That's the first and only time so far that I've gotten my hair cut here in Japan. And I took pictures with me to kind of show them what I wanted, pictures of me. And even though the guy that cut my hair had very little English vocabulary, and of course me with very little Japanese, we made it work. He was very nice. If you're thinking about coming to Japan, there's the kind of things you might want to think about. You're not going to be able to cover all your bases, but you might want to think about, how am I going to communicate if you don't already know Japanese? How am I going to say this or that?